The Iron Hands have been unforgiving devotees of the Emperor's word since the time of legends, when the godlike primarchs walked among men. For countless centuries, the Iron Hands have remained unwavering in their faith and belief. They have endured dark years of suffering and pain where others have faltered and been forgotten by time. They look with disgust on those who lack their strength of will and punish them without remorse. Their primarch, Ferrus Manus, is seen as strong, unwavering warrior god, the saviour of his people, who will one day return to lead all of humanity from the darkness that besets it from all sides within. First of all, to the Iron Hands' home world, the world of Medusa. It is a harsh realm of perpetual gloom, situated precariously close to the Eye of Terror. The sun almost never breaks through the dark and polluted sky, as it constantly churns over a land of frozen mountain ranges interspersed with volcanoes and boiling hot geysers. The landscape is under constant flux, the shifting of tectonic plates forming new mountains and seas and destroying them as quickly as they are created. The people of Medusa are a hardy race that flourishes despite the hostile environment. They are in a constant battle with the elements and with each other, as each clan vies for hard to come by and jealously defending resources. The unpredictable nature of the landscape of Medusa means that the little that is built will last for very long, except in those few areas of relative calm. As such, the clans build very few permanent structures, but rather carry their possessions and livelihoods along with them as they traverse the landscape. In days gone past, the clans hauled great caravans along by hand. The inhabitants of Medusa still follow this tradition, though the means of transport has changed to reflect the changing times. Great caterpillar-like mining haulers crawl across the landscape in grand processions as the clans move. These haulers constantly disgorge their raw exhaust into the atmosphere, adding to the thickening sulphurous clouds that swirl around the planet like a shroud. Karashi, the ice pinnacle, can still be seen today, though it is said to be half the size it once was. A great gaping hole at its peak that spews ash and steam into the atmosphere is evidence of where the shining light of Ferris crashed an age previously. Still, it rumbles the anger of Medusa, a constant reminder of the need for vigilance. The clans of Medusa prepare for that day when the ice pinnacle ceases to rumble Medusa's unease. For that day, it is foretold, will mark the second coming of the great Primarch. With his return, Medusa will at last be content. And that's the homeworld. Sounds like a lovely place to be. Somewhere that is constantly shrouded in darkness, with a sun that never breaks through, next to probably what could be described as one of the worst neighbours in the entire galactic history, the Eye of Terror. But the people, they seem hardy enough, able to flourish in this environment. Perhaps that is why many of them make excellent Adeptus Astartes. And probably is another reason why the Iron Hands have the personality that they do. A tenacious, unrelenting, logical mind that can't be stopped. It reflects their warfare too. The Iron Hands don't go for lightning-fast raids or huge assault-borne craft that drop hundreds of assault marines on top of the enemy. No, they use massive amounts of firepower and ranks upon ranks of marines to slowly grind down their enemy into nothing. It's not a quick victory, but it is a final victory. It seems to be reflected in the way they approach in their homeworld. A slow, dark existence that, while doesn't seem to be the most fairy tale-like existence, means that they can grind out an existence in the harshest of places. And so we move on to the Primarch Ferrus Manus and his exploits as he arrived on Medusa. And that is where we shall go next. At the very dawn of the Imperium, a time of great deeds and mighty battles, Ferrus Manus broke the darkness of the world of Medusa and became the shining light of its people. The sky, perpetually darkened by a great calamity of the long-gone ancients, was ripped asunder as Ferrus descended from the heavens amid a great inferno of light. Never before had the primitive human clans of Medusa seen such a light, and they were awed and frightened by the fiery display that burned their eyes. The great star crashed into the highest mountain of Medusa, Karashi, the ice pinnacle. The impact shattered the mountaintop, burying Ferrus deep in the ice in a tremendous explosion of steam. The land shook under the impact, which could be felt the world over. Mountains were toppled and great chasms were formed as the world rumbled under the coming of the great Primarch. Years later, the great warrior god Ferrus walked unscathed and fully formed from the uninhabited mountain ranges of the far northern wastes where the ice pinnacle lies. The legends of the roaming clans, taught from father to son throughout the ages, revolve around the early exploits of Ferrus. Tales of fantastic acts of strength and endurance. No one could match his strength of arm, try as he might to find a worthy opponent. He sought out every physical challenge that he could, always returning victorious. According to one often recounted mythic tale, he once challenged a storm giant to a competition of strength. The giant lifted a mountain between his hands and set it back down a mile away. The giant's laugh died as Ferrus lifted the entire mountain range onto his back, carrying it to a neighbouring island. The humble giant was never seen or heard from again. Ferrus travelled the length and breadth of Medusa, becoming well known by all its people and coming to know the land itself as no one ever had. He travelled areas that any other man would have found inaccessible. He climbed the highest mountains, he swam the deepest oceans, always pushing himself and his body, pushing his levels of endurance and strength to unfathomable levels. His strength and fury made him renowned and feared amongst the people of the clans, who valued such qualities highly, and was uniformly adopted by them as one of their own. He never sought to end the conflict between the clans, seeing such competition as healthy and strengthening. He always remained neutral, however, never participating in their feuds, so as not to favour one clan over another. The most famous heroic story of Ferrus was his titanic battle against Acernoth, the great silver worm. This is recounted in the Canticle of the Travels, an epic poem of unknown origin that is still taught to clan children at their parents' knee. He had stalked the great beast for days through the legendary land of shadows, the fearful land of the ancients, a place of great fear and mystery. This place, long since lost, was said to be a land of metal and stone relics of giant proportions, remnants of a forgotten age. The ghost spirits of the clans are said to roam there once they leave the world of the living. The Canticle describes the monstrous creatures having skin made of living metal that was completely impervious to harm. Ferrus found the creature and battled it. Try as he might, Ferrus could not pierce the metal hide of the beast, his fists pummeling harmlessly against it. Fighting the creature for days on end across continents and seas, Ferrus remained undaunted, confident of his own abilities. He eventually slew the great beast by holding the writhing creature submerged in a lava flow, enduring horrific pain in the process, but bearing it stoically. When he finally removed his arms from the lava, the worm was no more. His hands, however, were encased in the same living metal that the creature's skin was made of, a metal that was as flexible as flesh, as strong as the heart of ceremony. It was known that myths involving Ferris's metal hands precede the Canticle of Travels, but only in the Canticle is this explanation given as to how the metal came to be fused to his body. After the battle, he returned to the clans, filled with new and wonderful ideas which he taught to all who wished to learn. He created strange and powerful weapons and tools out of metal, shaping them with his living metal hands. He taught the clans such wonders that they never could have imagined possible. It was a time of greatness for the people of Medusa. The civilization of the clans advanced at a tremendous pace, and the people became increasingly strong and proud. And that is how things went. Until another day, where light filled the sky, and another being arrived on Medusa, a being even more powerful than Ferris Manus. And if you know your Warhammer 40,000 lore, I think you can guess who this is. Ferris Manus is about to be reunited with his father. When the heavens split open for a second time in history and dark Medusa was once again filled with light, the clans were confused and frightened. They could not understand what this might mean for them and their world. They were happy as they were and saw whatever was coming as a threat. Ferris did not speak, but left the clans immediately to travel to the northern reaches where the light had descended, and there it remained. The clans grew worried as days passed with no word of their saviour. A great council was called, the first of its type ever formed on Medusa, with representatives of each clan present. They argued over what should be done, but could come to no agreement. Days turned to weeks, and the people grew desperate in their unease. This unease turned to terror, as the land literally erupted beneath their feet. They ran out of the great council tent in their panic, savage electrical storms ripping the skies asunder above them. They wailed in their dread, for the fury of the storm seemed far, far from natural, and they felt certain the end of the world drew near. The terrible storm assaulted the land for a week and a day, so it is said, after which time an unearthly silence descended. The clans returned to the great council, unsure what would come of such dire portents. The next morning, the doors to the great council were thrown wide, and Ferris strode in, resplendent in his magnificence. At his side walked a figure that stood as his equal, a radiant figure who awed the clansmen as much as Ferris had always done. The very air was said to crackle with the combined power that exuded from the pair, and the bond between them was immediately apparent. What actually occurred when the two divine beings met is unknown even to this day. Their meeting in the hills, surrounded in mystery. The myths surrounding the meeting of these two most powerful and heroic of figures revolve around a clash of wills and power that tore the land asunder. Many of the myths relate to how, when Ferris saw the Emperor for the first time in those mountains, he recognised him as an equal. He strode up the mountains to confront him, confident of his own abilities and wishing to test him against his personage of obvious power. In the ensuing conflict, the two godly beings were evenly matched in all ways, neither being able to better the other. The awesome confrontation of power devastated the landscape, shattering the very heavens and earth alike. Regardless of details, all the stories agree that when the two figures came down from the great northern mountains, the bond and mutual respect between them was unwavering. Ferris and his father, the Emperor, were reunited, and Ferris quickly agreed to join the crusade. Ferris left Medusa only reluctant. He was torn between conflicting feelings of loyalty. On the one hand were his people, whom he had helped to flourish. His beloved Medusa that had tempered and strengthened him. On the other hand, the sense of duty he felt towards the Emperor was overwhelming. He knew that his people would survive without him, and that his Emperor needed him now. Further, he learnt of his legion. An entire army of superhuman warriors formed in his image, whom he had still not even to this point been aware of. Still, he was distraught at the thought of leaving his land and its people that had formed who he was in so many ways. But Ferris left. Ferris left Medusa and was given his legion of superhuman warriors, his legion of Adeptus Astartes. The Iron Hands Legion, as they became to be known, fought with valour across the galaxy, cutting a deadly swathe through any and all who opposed the Emperor's word, for surely only those who wished humanity ill, would reject his divine teachings. As the need arose, the Legion recruited many of its members from Medusa, and these warriors proved especially resolute, both in body and faith. Ferris believed passionately in the Emperor's attempt to unify all of humanity. For Ferris believed mankind was in grave danger, not least at all from itself. Unless it stood united, it would be slowly destroyed piece by piece. He saw many weak people around him, and saw the infirmity as a plague. He would rather see those weak links of humanity destroyed than have them pose a threat, an unnecessary frailty that would pose a burden to the rest. On Medusa, the weak children were exposed to the elements, so as not to place an unnecessary encumbrance on the rest of the community. So too, when the time came that an adult was incapable of providing for the community, that the person left their clan. Those who accepted the Emperor's divine teachings were embraced. Those who did not were cut down without pity. The ruthlessness of the Legion and its Primarch terrified those who stood in the way of their relentless approach, and many worlds turned to the Emperor out of the overwhelming fear of retribution that these callous warriors were becoming renowned for. And there we have an introduction. An introduction to Ferris Manus, the father of the Iron Hands Legion. I must say that the final part there, about his dislike for weakness and the way he cuts it out from any or all parts of Medusan society, as well as the Iron Hands Legion themselves, is reflected very much in the Legion's teachings. The flesh is weak. Any weakness is removed and replaced by the mechanical. And it would seem this custom of doing this stems from the Primarch's feelings, not just towards the flesh, but weakness in general. The Iron Hands seem to get this callous, cold nature from their Primarch. But I suppose in a universe of complete darkness, where you are surrounded by enemies, it is the way they have decided to fight against it. By cutting away the weakness that they feel within themselves, and by cutting away the weakness they feel within their community and their society, ensures that the strong survive, and the warriors who are there to fight the battles are the strongest warriors available. Thank you for listening today. This has been Wargaming with Dad, and I hope wherever you are safe and happy and enjoying your hobby. Until next time, bye-bye.